and you do not want to get these wrong. All right, we're live. And we're live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, we're live on TikTok. We're about to drop in. And these are the 4 biggest decisions you need to make on this planet as a human being. And you don't want to mess these up. This is going to completely affect your happiness, how you experience reality, the joy that you experience. And if you get these wrong, you mess them up, you might be depressed. You might be unhappy. You might not experience as much joy as you came here to experience. And these are in order, okay? And these decisions that you're going to have to make, and all of us have to make them, actually. In fact, every single one of us has to make these decisions while we're here on this planet. And the combination of them are going to affect how you experience reality. They're going to affect how you experience this game of life. And you're not going to want to mess these up. These are very important, and you're going to want to know this. And again, just like you want to live the good life, right? They should have taught us this in school. They didn't teach us this in school either. They tried to in certain dynamics, but this should have been taught to us as soon as we were like 18. We should have been learning about this. We should have been understanding this. We should have been researching. The challenge is when you understand this information, it depends who you are listening to. And this is a key piece of information that I would consider listening to, is that you want to understand who do you listen to. You listen to someone that has what you want and has been where you were. This is very key in understanding how you can play the game of life, right? So, for example, who are you listening to? For example, if you want to be a baker, right? And you want to bake cakes, right? Well, what kind of baker are you listening to? Are you listening to a baker that just got into the game of baking? Or are you listening to someone that's an expert banker or baker? And one of the things is just to give you like a little bit of an intro here. I've traveled, I don't even know how many countries here's the thing, people travel, but have you actually lived? I've lived in multiple countries around the world, in big cities, in completely remote locations. I've studied under massive amounts of mentors. I spent a lot of money on mentorship. I've ran businesses, and this should just add to it too. I lived in Las Vegas sober, and the second time celibate. And now I've been sober for 10 years, and I'm ready to share the wisdom with you, dropping knowledge. And it's a fact that these glasses specifically help with giving you knowledge, okay? So if you're ready for knowledge, if you're ready for information, drop that in the chat. Drop it in the chat if you're ready for information, if you're ready to understand these 4 biggest decisions that you got to make, and you got to make them in order, okay? You have to make these in order, and there's a priority to them, okay? So you don't want to mess these up. Nick says, Matthew, girl, those shades look bunk on you. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate this. Well, Nick, as you know, these actually help with dropping knowledge. This helps me. Right now, these are AI glasses that help me basically deliver more value to you. So you might want to get a pair. I'm just kidding. These are blue blockers. Right now, I got Vegas lights on me right here. So I'm trying to, protect the eyes. This is nighttime where I am right now. And I'm streaming live from Canada in Vancouver. We're just outside of Vancouver, Canada. I'm actually in a farm town right now. So you want to get these decisions right. And when you think about this, I want you to think this through right now. Have you thought about these types of questions? Have you thought about these types of decisions that you'll have to make? And then afterwards, I want to hear. Drop in the comments below. Hey, Matthew, I don't think those were the biggest decisions. Or yeah, that decision was really important. Or no, that decision, I don't think that decision's that important. I don't think it's in that order. So let's drop in, okay? So right now, we're going to be talking about the 4 biggest decisions, okay? And in order. Okay, you don't want to mess these up. All right, these are the 4 biggest decisions we will have to make. And I'm going to have to mirror on TikTok here. Let's see this. There we go. Perfect. And you don't want to mess these up, okay? These are very important decisions that you're going to have to make, and you don't want to mess these up. I'm telling you this right now. You don't want to mess these up, and it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of testing, and you want to learn from people that have done a lot of testing in this information. That's very important. You want to learn from people that have done a lot of testing. So for me, I've learned this a lot from mentors, specifically social media mentors, and people that have basically created multi-million-dollar companies, people that have traveled the world, experienced different places in the world, and also different types of mentors that have different knowledge and different expertise. And then I've also done my own testing. Like I said, I've lived in multiple places around the world. I've seen a lot, and now I'm going to share it with you. So let's jump in. Let's start with number 4. Okay. Number 4. If you're in the chat right now, what do you think number 4, the 4th biggest decision you will make in your life? What do you think it is? Drop in the chat right now. Let me know what it is. Okay. I see that Julia says, Matthew, food. Okay, food. All right. I see, who is that? Jay Growls says, marriage. Okay, yes, these are important. These are very, very important. What else do you think? What's the 4th biggest decision you will have to make? I don't think that's how you spell it, but whatever. Health counsel. Who you choose to take health counsel from. I'll give you this for a reason, okay? This is number 4. Think about this for a sec. If you take certain health counsel from a certain kind of person, that can either mean really great things, that can mean a lot of healing, or that can mean something else. And I'm mindful of what I can say on here. I still don't really know the rules of lives and Facebooks and all this type of stuff. I'm actually on a challenge right now. I'm challenging myself to go on live, to be speaking my truth on live within reason. I think we are in a little bit of a sanitized world right now, so I'm mindful of that. So I don't exactly know the rules on here. So I'm going to, basically bubble wrap my language. But if you work with me privately, we don't have to bubble wrap this. We can go straight to the truth. That's why I love working with people, and I love working with clients, because they put their hands up and say, hey, I'm ready to change my life. I'm ready to get that truth. I'm ready to face truth. I'm ready to actually change my life. But on here, you get this for free. So this is fantastic. And the exchange win-win values is I got to practice my craft and you get free knowledge. All right. So number 4, you want to be mindful of who you seek health counsel from, right? Who is your mentor in the health department? What types of people, what types of understandings are you understanding about health? And this is very important. And like I was saying earlier, you choose the right person, and your health is your wealth. Okay. If you don't have your health, look, I can tell you this, like, for firsthand experience. You don't want to be a billionaire and in your bed. You do not want to be a billionaire and in your bed. So it is important to understand who you choose to take health counsel from. And by the way, that's going to change as you get older. And ideally, personally for me, I want to learn from someone I look up to. I want to learn from someone that I look at their body and I look at them 20 years ahead, 40 years ahead, and I see how their body has performed over a long period of time. I look at their health. I look at their vitality. Do they have natural chi running through their body? Are they able to sustain long energy levels? How do they move in their body? What's their awareness in their body? How do they treat their body, right? Because I don't know about you, but I've seen some people my age, and they're already going, oh, my back hurts, or oh, my knee hurts. And I'm not condemning those people. But look, I'm still relatively young, and to already be having joint issues, back issues, knee issues, and injuries happen, by the way. Injuries are going to happen. And that's the other thing too. Who do you seek counsel from for when you get injured? Are you seeking counsel from going straight to, the doctors, which is okay. That's your thing. Or are you looking to do alternative ways? And I'm not for any one thing, and I'm not giving any sort of medical advice here. I am not at all in that position. But what I am doing is sharing my experience, right? I'm sharing my experience with you. And what I found is that if you take health counsel from the right people, your life is going to completely change. But you take health counsel from certain types of people and it can go south quite quickly. So this is something you want to be very, very mindful of when you're on this game of life and you're looking at the decisions you're making down the track. Who are your mentors? Who's your health mentors? Who are the people that you're seeking counsel from in order for you to get healthy, right? And this is so important because look at this. For example, say there's a certain person that gives you certain health advice, right? And maybe they're knowledgeable, maybe they're not. And 20 years down the line, you find out, you find out the hard way, right? And what happens to a lot of people, right, is they sacrifice their health earlier on in life in order to get their wealth. And then once they get their wealth, it's already too late. And now they're trying to get back their health. But it can't work like that. That's not the equation. Once you get past a certain point on this life, on this journey, you can't buy back your health. You can't. So one of the things I would encourage, and something that I've learned, is actually what I doubled down on. It's what I doubled down on at the beginning of this journey. And personally, I've not sacrificed my health for wealth. I've actually taken a lot slower of a journey than most people on the journey of wealth. And in fact, I actually had a lot of money blocks a lot earlier on my journey. And I was really awkward with money and I was really bad with money and I wasn't really good at managing money. And in fact, I doubled down on the spirit world and I was completely lopsided. All right. I was very, very spiritual, but I had no material, right? So you look at the spirit, which goes this way, and you look at the material, which goes this way. And both planes are important, but you don't want to be too lopsided, So you want to typically have a balance if you can. There's a sweet spot right in that center. You want to try to find that sweet spot. And so you don't necessarily, if you can, and what's so great, when was the best time to plant a tree? When was the best time to plant a tree? Jason says 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years ago. Suzanne says 5 years ago. Yes, exactly. Well, any one of those. But the second best time, when was the second best time? Drop it in the chat. When was the second best time to plant a tree? Now. All right. So you're learning this now so you can make these decisions now in order for you to have a good life down the track. Right. And by the way, some of these decisions that you're going to make in this lifetime won't catch up to you until you're a certain age. Okay. Some of these decisions that you will have to make on this journey will not catch up with you until you're a certain age. So if you can, try to seek mentorship from those further along in the journey from you. And I will give a caveat to this. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're older than you. Okay. I love sometimes learning from little 5-year-olds. I love learning from 13-year-olds. I love learning from smart, switched on internet guys that are like 22, I love learning from them because they got so much to share, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to listen to someone that's older. Remember the thing that I said earlier? You want to listen to someone that has what you want and has been where you were. This is very important. Someone that has what you want and has been where you were. So then you look forward, and with the health decision, that one's a little bit easier because you can look down the track and you can see this person, look at how they're moving, look at how they're sitting. Ideally, and for me personally, I like to get around people. I'm a people person and I'm an in-person person. This is why this digital stuff has taken me so long to understand, but because I'm an in-person person. And so what you ideally want to do is you want to get around that person. How's that person sitting? Like when they get up, do they go, and that's okay. That's okay. That's okay if that happens, right? Truly, I believe that everything is reversible within reason, right? But you can always adapt your body. Our bodies are so resilient. And so when you look at someone down the track, and you look at them, you ask yourself, how are they moving? How are their awarenesses? How are they in their body? And by the way, there's a big thing here too. Genetics play into this, okay? Genetics play into this big decision on who you choose to take health counsel from. And one of the things, I wonder if you're noticing this right now, I don't have spell check when I'm writing here. So I know when I'm about to write a word, I'm like, don't know how to spell that one. And this is also what's happening to us, right? By the way, I was never a good speller, but this is what's happening to us as the digital era is coming about, is that we lose the ability to spell and type, and it's getting worse and worse. And who knows, our children, I don't even know if they'll really know how to write. Like, is it really necessary? And that's a conversation for another day, but we are talking about the future. And the future, when we're talking about the fourth biggest decision that you need to make, is who you choose to take health counsel from. And this is very important to understand, and you don't want to mess this one up. So what's the solution? Look down the track, find someone that is maybe 20, 30 years down the track, and see how they're moving. Maybe 10 years, maybe 5 years. At least someone a little bit older than you, ideally, and see how they're moving. How is their body moving? And then this is quite easy, right? What you can do is you can also look at, like, depending on what you care about, right? This is not me, like, this depends what you care about, but like, what's the longevity of a bodybuilder? Well, what's a bodybuilder body at when they're in their prime, but then afterwards? And by the way, if this is your passion, fantastic, like fantastic. But for me, how I'm adjusting this decision is I'm looking, how do I want to look, feel, and what movement and body range do I want to be in 60? So that's about pretty much another 30 years for me here. And how do I want to be? How do I want to move? How do I want my body to feel at 60 years old? And now even going further, right? Because the way technology is going and the lifespan are going, some scientists believe that we might be able to live to 150. So I want to ask you right now, imagine, you're relatively young or whatever age you are, right? And, you're about to live to 150 or 110, 120, 130, right? And obviously we might be in the singularity at that point. But right now, the decisions you want to make, how can you make deposits for your future self? What decisions can you make today for your future self? And I'll give you one of those, which are very simple. Meditation. Meditation is one of those deposits that you thank your brain down the track. You think your mind down the track for those daily deposits. Water. Okay, this is very important. Drink water, drink water, drink water. That means pure water. Okay, and now we can get into the details of water, which I'm not going to get into right now, but water in its form. And by the way, I was like a young fat kid, so I loved pop, I loved candy, and it's taken me years just to drink pure water as it is, no additives, no nothing, just as it, and being okay with that, right? So this is something that you want to consider on the health journey. And the health journey is a massive one, okay? And it's one that we'll be constantly learning and on. So ideally, if you can, develop a personality or a habit of enjoying learning about health, enjoying learning about taking care of your body. Because honestly, this is the thing. This thing is what's housing, and this depends on whether or not this is something you want to consider, but this thing houses the soul. This thing is what brings your soul into this reality, right? So you want to take care of the vehicle. We don't want to be attached to it. Ideally, we don't want to be attached to the vehicle, right? You don't have to be overly fanatical about this, but this is the house of the soul, right? So you want to take care of your body, and drinking water is one of those ways. Pretty much a lot of us are dehydrated, and right now it's summertime where I am and it's hot. So I'm going to drink water. I encourage you, if you can, take a break, drink some water. Yeah, baby. It's good. Okay, so number 4, the fourth biggest decision you will make in this lifetime is health counsel. Who are you going to take health counsel from? So consider that, all right? Now, number 3, we're going to move into number 3 of the fourth biggest decisions you will make, okay? So number 3, where you choose to live. This is massive. This is going to completely play into how you experience reality and what kind of reality you experience. Yes, this is very, very important. Where you choose to live. Here's what I'll mean by this, okay? So say you are a farm person, right? And you want to live in the farm, but you're living downtown in a city. This is going to completely ruin your peace. This is going to completely ruin how you experience reality, and vice versa. Say you're a city slicker. Do I have any city slickers in the chat right now? Is there any city slickers in here? I was a city slicker for quite a while too. And one of the things is if you're a city slicker, are you going to be living in the farm? That's going to completely affect your ability, right? Bryce Elliott says, Matthew, farmer only. All right, my man. We got some farmers in the house. This is important, right? So, yeah, what's going on, Bryce? Matthew says, he says, Matthew, farmer only. Yes. Being a farmer, hey, man, there's a lot of benefits to living on a farm. That's one of the keys to actually having some innate happiness is taking care of some animals, some livestock. Being on a farm, it's actually one of my goals at one point is to actually own a farm as well and live on a farm, live with animals. And it's actually really great for children as well, right? To have a farm and have them interact. And by the way, I'm naturally a person that works with my hands. So I like to be in nature. I like to be in the dirt. One of my favorite things to do, and I just did it this weekend, I was up at this primal retreat, and all the weights are made out of wood, and they've got chin-up bars and all this type of stuff. And you can work out with no shoes on, no shirt, and you're out in the elements. You got the sun beaming down on you. It's absolutely unreal. And this is something that I want to incorporate. I lived for 4.5 years in Bali. If you ever get a chance to check it out, coming back to that fourth thing that you want to consider it is that the main thing you want to understand is that, how you choose to work out, right? And I lived in Bali for 4.5 years, and I trained at one of the best gyms in the world. And this is just my opinion, but look up Nirvana Strength Bali. And you can work out with no shoes, no shirt, primal movements, farmer carries, all this type of stuff. This primal movement is unreal. And I don't know if, I only know the man experience, but I don't know what it is. But when you're up in nature, you're looking at all this beautiful mountains and you're training and you got your brothers around you. And then you finish and you're sweating and you've done all this movement. And then you go eat with all these guys. And we just went and ate like a bunch of meat, which was unreal, like animal-based diet. This is where I'm currently at. I was a vegan for a year. I was also a vegetarian for 8. So I've tested out a lot of different things and worked on different diets and different things because I've tried to optimize health, right? And by the way, when I come back to that, right, like I was a vegan for a year, and dude, my fingers were rotting. Like literally, I'd have all this pus in my fingers and stuff. I had all these weird things on my back. And then as soon as I just started eating meat, it went away, right? But I took counsel from someone, right? But I was vegetarian. And by the way, I'm not here to talk about like food religion. That's on you, that you got to do your own research. One of the things you got to understand is you know yourself best, all right? You know yourself best. But coming back to number 3, where you choose to live. Okay, I'll give you an example of how I'm actually not doing this that great right now. I'm a surfer, okay? I love surfing. But honestly, surfing right now, I live in a farm country, right? Right now, I live in a farm country. I'm quite far from the waves. But one of the things that I'm working on right now is what's called a location rotation, where you live and you travel with the sun, okay? It's called a circadian travel rotation, all right? So if you look at us as ancestrally, you look at our body and you look at Homo sapiens, what did we used to do? We used to travel with the sun, right? We used to migrate. Well, now because of society and the way society is set up, we stay sedentary. And by the way, depending on your disposition, right? Some of us are serotonin driven and we love to stay based in one place, right? If you're like me, I'm more dopamine driven. That's kind of the hormone that runs through me. That's like the neurotransmitter that runs through me. That's why I like live in Vegas and then I go to India and then I go to the farm. I remember back in April, one week I was in New York, Times Square, and literally 7 days later, I'm in Nakusp, BC at a hot spring. So it's like, I love, switching these different dynamics up. The reason for that is I'm dopamine driven. So I like to travel, and I used to like feel weird about it, right? For all of my 20s, I didn't live in a place longer than 4 months. And there's also coping mechanisms which are involved in that and trauma and all this type of stuff. But when I started to understand what hormones drive me, I'm like, when I look at serotonin people and they have the ability to stay put and sedentary and they're happy they can be in like a place for 10 years and not move. Well, they're serotonin driven, right? But for me, I'm more so dopamine driven. I need a lot of change, right? So right now, when you look at a circadian or a travel circadian rotation, what that is essentially you're following the sun. Now, for the last 8 years, I've been in an endless summer. And I had my first Canada winter here. And yes, that absolutely, I know some of my Canadian friends are here being like, what the heck, bro? I'm in this all the time. I'm like, yeah, I know. But for me, I'm like, I love winter. I grew up in Canada. I grew up on the mountains. I absolutely love snowboarding. I love being in the cabin. If you ever get a chance to have that experience, I'd highly recommend it. Being in the cabin is unreal. But I love surfing. So right now in farm country, I'm quite far from the waves, but I got to surf behind my cousin's boat on the weekend as well. So I was at the retreat, and then before the retreat, I was with my cousins on his boat, and this is where I got to do the surfing. And you'll see if you ever watch my content, I'll be posting this as well, like me surfing, and you'll see I was just like, oh my God, I've not surfed in over a year, even longer, properly behind waves. And my stoke is like this high right now on the waves, you know? So choosing where you choose to live, what environment are you putting yourself in? Now, for some of you in here, you can't choose that because of the career choice you picked. And that's actually one of the things that we'll talk about next, is the second biggest decision you have to make is your career, okay? What you choose to do for work, okay? Let's say, for example, I'm in Canada, and where I'm from, a lot of people go, okay, how can I make money? And there's two routes that most people go when they're like, I want to make money. One, go work up on the rigs, right? But now that's kind of like a certain kind of lifestyle. And by the way, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong to this lifestyle. It depends what lifestyle you want for you. And that's what's so awesome about being in this human experience, is there's no right or wrong here. For some of you, you're going, what the heck, being in the waves and not being around the snow? Or what the heck, being in the tropics? Like, no chance. Or what the heck, some of you are in the tropics right now and being up in Canada around snow? No way, right? So see, this depends on what you want, what works best for you. And so ideally, if you can, again, coming back to that axiom that we were talking about earlier, who do you listen to? You listen to someone that has what you want and has been where you were. So that's the power of the internet right now, right? The internet allows us to connect with other people's minds. So you can go on their YouTube channels, you can go on their Instagrams, you can go buy coaching most likely from some of these people. Some of these people create courses and whatever. You can look at their life and reverse engineer or get hired or hire them as a mentor, and they can help guide you through different things that you can speed up. So one of my mentors, and I'll tell you this right now, one of my mentors, he's still arguably one of the most well-off guys I've ever met in my entire life. And he was 24 and I was 27 at the time. And he taught me about this key concept, okay? I'm going to teach you it right now. He taught me about this one concept, and I misspelled it there. This concept that he taught me about was like, you can get what you want, but how quick do you want to get it, right? And what he taught me about is what's called collapsing time frames. All right, collapsing time frames. If you want to get what you want, how long do you want to take to get it, right? And if you get a mentor, if you get someone that's gone further along the journey of the thing that you want to be in, get a mentor and they'll collapse time frames for you. What would take you this long, right? What would take you this long would take you this long with a mentor, right? Because he's seen the mistakes, or she's seen the mistakes that you're going to make, and now they can accelerate your timeline, all right? They can get you there quicker. So I'll give you an example. For me personally, I wanted to live that digital lifestyle. I wanted to live remotely. I wanted to make money from my laptop and my phone. Okay, I can still remember that. I was in Vegas when I made that decision. And when I was traveling for all those years, one of the things that was a problem was I kept coming back. And I'm like, the only reason I came back to Canada is because I ran out of money. And then when I came back, I had to live at my mom's house. I chose to save money, but I had to live at my mom's house. And then I was a window washer and I was a laborer. And so I had to be, the way that I was living at that time, I had to be very cheap or also frugal, right? I saved a lot of my money, and I lived literally, because I was a vegan and vegetarian at the time, I lived off rice and beans, you know, I've eaten a lot of rice and beans in my time. And during that time period, what I realized was, hey, I'm a nomad, but I'm not a digital one. And so I kept understanding, but the challenge was, this was the challenge, I didn't have social media. Okay. I basically my brain grew fully developed with zero social media. Okay. So I got social media for the first time when I was 30 years old. And now my brain, and I'm very aware of what this stuff does to us. But the challenge is I kept coming back to, okay, how do I keep this gravy going, right? How do I keep this momentum going? How do I keep staying on the path, right? How do I live the life I want and not have to come back, right? So when I was in Vegas, I was like, okay, I want to keep this going, but I didn't really understand what that was. And then from there, I flew to Bali, in the land of influencers, okay? And I got a ton of mentors while I was there. I call it, some of you won't understand this joke, but if I got any digital guys on here, I basically, Bali is the ClickFunnels for digital entrepreneurs, right? If you want to be in the land of influencers, right? For example, if you want to start up a tech company, when we talk about the third biggest decision, if you're someone that wants to start up a tech company, probably going to Silicon Valley, maybe Dubai, right? Depending, and you can even find tech areas in your, wherever you are in your country, right? But probably being around a major city is going to be an important choice for starting up a tech company, right? This is very important, right? So choosing where you're going to live is going to directly affect how you experience reality. And the key thing to this is the type of people, right, that are surrounding you. Because there's this psychological term from Dr. David Buss, who wrote the book Evolutionary Psychology, who is one of the top psychologists at Harvard. And one of the things he coined was SSG, okay? It's called social selective grouping, okay? It's called SSG, social selective grouping. What that means is humans collectivize, they come together as tribes around similar, the way that I would say it is vibrations. So then when you understand this term, your vibe attracts your tribe. One of the things that you can understand is that there's actually a psychological reason for that they see that, like, in biology, that our like the what's it called, the cells group together. And so as human beings around a city, there's a city typically attracts a certain kind of person, okay? And when I say this, what I'm really referencing to is the type of person. Generally, they're probably going to be more cortisol driven, right? When the type of hormone that they're under, people, and I go into major cities all the time. I was in New York. I remember I was in New York, and I was like, there's this constant look that I see in all these types of people, and it's like this. They're constantly doing this, the Frau brow. It's like, I saw those Frau on another, I study people. So I saw that Frau on another person. I saw that Frau on that. Wait, this person's walking by. Why is that Frau there, right? And, New York's a tough place, man. New York is a tough place. It makes you work for it. And there's a ton of opportunity there, right? But it makes you work for it there. And so the social selective grouping that happens there is typically people running on cortisol, right? Or different types of hormones, but that's one of the ones that you get ran on. So coming back to the career, what my mentor taught me at that time was, hey, you want to collapse timeframes? Go all in. Some people learn this stuff. They learn one lesson a week, right? They'll learn one lesson a week, or some people will learn one lesson a month. Some people will learn one lesson a year, and some people will just never learn a lesson. But he said, if you want to collapse timeframes, what he meant by that is if you want to get your result quicker, put more upfront effort, collapse timeframes. So where most people will learn one lesson in 1 week, try to learn 5 lessons in 48 hours. Try to implement that quick. Speed of implementation, action. Keep taking action. And by the way, that was still to date. Actually, that's not true. I've met a lot richer people than him. But still, at the time that I met him, he was a guy that I met in Vegas. He's a trader. And then I ended up hanging out with him and getting mentorship. He taught me so much about the mind and reality. And yet I was older than this guy, but this guy was way further on. Like, we were worlds different in terms of finance understanding. And this was the concept that he talked to me. He's like, okay, I'm going to teach you some information, but before I teach you the information, you got to collapse timeframes. So try to learn this stuff, speed of implementation, try to learn this stuff as quick as possible. So how could you apply that concept right now? Well, you're understanding these decisions right now. So one of the things you could do is you could type into ChatGPT saying, hey, there's this guy with these X-ray glasses on a live that told them, by the way, these are AI glasses that help you deliver value to people. That's why I bought these, because they said that, hey, if you wear these glasses, you'll actually, look at this, you'll actually deliver more value to people, right? And it's a fact, they've studied this, that if you wear blue blockers, AI blue blockers, you'll actually deliver more value to more people. No, I'm just kidding. It's late night right now. I don't want that stuff on my eyes, right? I got Vegas studio in here. I actually just bought these lights because I'm on this journey right now where I want to practice my craft. I want to practice my craft of speaking. If you understand what I'm doing right now, one of the techniques that I'm doing right now, it's actually a psychological technique. It's called free associative speaking. How you can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And there's a phenomenon that starts to happen once your brain starts to warm up, is you're just able to draw upon information, and you will access, okay? I want you, if you're taking notes right now, this might be a bit fast for you, but we're gonna rock with it, okay? You're gonna access independent, transcendent, flow-like states. What will happen is you'll awaken parts of your mind. You'll be able to access what's called lateral thinking, and you'll be able to draw upon information and channel more and more information, which will open up flywheels in your brain, and you'll be able to channel more and more information. So understanding how to free associate speak is very important. It's a very important skill. And if I got any guys in here that are wanting to learn man-to-woman communication, this is an absolute must. You have to understand this now. Look, you don't have to go to this level that I'm doing here. My journey is I'm a public speaker, okay? I'm a public speaker. I need to be able to speak. I need to be able to facilitate. And so one of the ways that I can practice this right now, and what I love about this, and this is what I did in Vegas as well, it's me against an abundance. It's just me against myself. So as many lives as I can be doing is how I can keep building my skill set. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to grow in front of you. I want you to watch my skills develop over time. I want you to watch my set change. So right now, as you can see, right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, or look at this on TikTok right there, there's this white light right here, right? But I just got these lights for the first time today because I was like, you know what? Hey, I saw my last live and I'm like, I can increase this, right? Then I will look back. The other thing that I got to do is look at the writing, right? Can you read the writing on the whiteboard? But eventually maybe this will be digital, right? But I want to grow in front of you. I want to train in front of you because I want to lead by example, right? There's this key saying, if you ever want to be a parent, right? What you're doing is louder than what you're saying, right? What you're doing is louder than what you're saying. And Bryce says, Matthew, you will grow with that mindset. Fantastic. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the love. And one of the things is I want you to watch me. Also, one of the things is I want you to watch me fail. Right? I want you to see like, ooh, that was cringe, or ooh, he said that. You know, that's important. I think it's important to, by the way, all of us are so manicured on social media now. And the other thing too, which is why I like doing lives, is there's no AI stuff going on. Other than my glasses, other than these things, this is the only AI that I got going on. As you can tell, I can't spell. But I have AI glasses, and this is part of the thing. Maybe I should let you try them on. Hey, maybe I should let you try these on, you know? Can you see the spelling? Can you see the spelling? Is it better if you look at these? You got to have fun. Look, one of the things is if you're not having fun, what's the point of doing any of this, right? Like you got to have fun with your life. So Nick Frucci said, Matthew, the weak quiver when the nice guys get angry. Yes. Okay, now we're getting onto a subject. We're getting kind of side tangent. I'll go on a little bit of a side quest right now. We'll go on a little bit of a side tangent, but we got to come back to the career. And I'm going to loop this. One of the things I want to start training you on is how can you experience information. I know I'm on TikTok here right now, so I'm going to try to test you guys. But how long can you hold a thought stream for? And then when you're delivering information, can you loop different threads together? This is a skill set, and this is something I'm actually working on. So one of the things what we want to do is when you talk about career, one of the career choices that I made back then is like, I want to be a digital entrepreneur. I want to make money from my laptop and my phone, and I want to do it legally. Big caveat. And then once I started getting more and more clear on the things that I want to do, I have to have a positive impact on people. what I do for work needs to have a positive impact on people. It has to. Next, I want to be passionate about it. I want to be passionate about what it is I want to talk about. I want to be passionate about what it is I want to do. And then next, it's got to be able to buy back my time. I want to be able to have my own schedule. I want to choose to work. I want to think that I get to do this, right? No one's making me do this. This is completely on my own thing because it's something I want to work on, right? So the career choice that I chose was coaching. That was a career path that I chose, that I'm going to be a career coach, and not specifically about careers. That means, no, I'm going to be coaching basically to the day that I die. It's just innate in me. It's something that I found. It took me 14 years to discover what it was that I'm here to do, right? And this is one of the things when you come into this lifetime, you want to understand, like, what am I here for? What am I here to do? And something I found myself always getting into is I love personal development. I love personal transformation, and I love growth, right? So that's why I'm like happy to be on here. And if you ever go right now, just go look at my YouTube channel. Look at how many YouTube videos I've created over the years, and then go look at my subscribers. It's actually gross. All my following, my effort to my following does not, they do not align. But I came at this game late. I came at this game in my world, right? Like, I didn't get social media until I was 30 years old, and there's a lot to learn on here, right? And so I got a lot of mentors. And that was a career choice that I made. And when I went to Bali, I was surrounded by all these different types of people. And so when you ask yourself this question, okay, one of the things that I want you to consider as we're talking about this subject is I want you to consider a thing called lifestyle design. Okay, I want you to consider this. Okay, it's called lifestyle design. Start with the end in mind. Okay, start with the end in mind. It's very, very important. What is it you want out of this life? What do you want to experience? What are the types of people you want to be around? What do you want to do for your pay, right? What kind of skills do you want to develop? And a big one is, what's so easy for you to do, but so difficult for others? I want you to ask yourself this right now. If you're still watching this, or if you're online right now, like, how would you do it doing a live? You know, most people, I look on here and it's like, it gives me the numbers afterwards. It's like 96% of the creators on here can't go for a live that long. And so I'm like, let me carve out a blue ocean. There's not many people that can do that. Let me work on the skill. And now, obviously, I'm a public speaker. So this is my chance to practice public speaking and free associative expression. And coming back to what Nick said, Matthew, you know, weak men should quiver when they get around nice guys that are angry. And by the way, I'm not here to condemn anyone, because I work with a lot of these nice guys and I help them understand communication. I help them understand what I'm doing, which is called free associative speaking, where you're able just to talk and talk and talk and talk, and then be able to deliver information. So the number one thing, okay, I want you to do this. If you're in the chat right now, type in the chat, what do you think the number one decision you need to make in this lifetime? If you choose, this is a little bit of a caveat, but what do you think the number one thing you got to do, right? The number one thing you got to do is your partner, okay? And when I say your partner, what I mean specifically is who you choose to have children with, okay? Who do you choose to have children with? The reason for this, once you have children with a certain person, you can't go back. That happens. You've merged your DNA together, okay? You've completely merged your DNA with another person, and you can't undo that. So it is very important to get this right, specifically if you're a man, okay? I specialize in man-to-woman communication. I specialize in this. This is a subject matter that I've been studying for basically my, for the last 5 to 10 years. I've been studying this subject matter. I've been studying communication. I've been studying sales. I've been studying man-to-woman communication, what builds attraction. And I went and studied this in Vegas, okay? And one of the things you got to understand when you're understanding this, if you're a man, and I only know the man experience, but if you're a man, you got to be able to screen for compatibility. You got to be able to screen whether or not you're a fit, whether or not you two are a fit with each other, right? And ideally, you want to be able to figure that out as early as possible, okay? You want to be able to identify who's a perfect match for you as quick as possible, because you don't want to be wasting your time 6 months down the track. By the way, here's a fact, okay? The reason why the honeymoon phase phases out is because what starts to happen when you're first dating, right? When you're in that first 6-month period, what starts to happen is you guys are sharing so much oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love drug, and you're sharing so much information, so much love with each other that it's actually you become addicted to each other, right? So they say that your relationship doesn't start until the 6-month mark. That's when your relationship really starts, because you get all that oxytocin out, you get all that love drugs out of each other, and then now the relationship starts. So the challenge is most people, they then get past that phase and they realize, oh, we were just kind of getting high off each other. We weren't actually compatible. So one of the things you want to do if you're here and you want to understand this decision, you really want to understand who you're partnering with. Your partner is the person that you will spend the most amount of time with in this lifetime if you choose to be together, which if you look at the landscape right now, that's not really going this way. And there's a lot of different factors at play why we're not choosing to be partners with each other and stay long-term with each other. And if you look at Homo sapiens, generally speaking, right now, especially, we're serial monogamous. That means we'll have multiple long-term relationships in our lifetime. That's where Homo sapiens operate at their best. So one of the things is understanding who you're choosing as a partner, and more importantly, who you choose to have children with. Because once you merge your DNA with that person, you can't go back. There's no going back. That is it. Okay. That is who you're with, and that is who you're going to be with. And you can never undo that. Right. And we have seen this all go down in a lot of different ways. I'm a product of it. Okay. I've had that experience as a child. I know what that experience is like. And I'm sure there's a lot of you on here that have that experience as a child as well. And it's important that you choose the right person. So one of the ways that you can choose the right person is understanding what's called psychometrics, okay? You want to understand what's called psychometrics, okay? This is the ability to read people. You want to be able to read people. And you can look at this as well as one of the ways that you could look at this is that you could look at this as also your friends as well, right? You could also look at this as your friends, who you choose to have friends with, right? What type of friends are you surrounding yourself with? And then more importantly as well is you want to understand who you're going into business with. This is important, right? So this choice of partner is really what we should actually say, because the highest decision is your partner, right? Which is who you choose to have children with. But then under that is who you choose to be friends with. And under that is who you choose to go in business with. And you want to be able to screen, and you want to be able to understand, hey, is this person, not a fit, right? If there's some flags coming up, is this person not a fit? This is something you want to consider when you're making these decisions, okay? So these right here are the 4 biggest decisions you will make in this lifetime. Who you choose to get health counsel from, all right? This is important. Who you choose to get health counsel from. Next, the life. All right. Where are you choosing to live, right? Where your lifestyle design, the environment you choose to live in is going to completely affect how you experience reality. And that is very important to understand that one, man. Like, your environment completely shapes who you are. For example, my experience when I was living in Las Vegas, it was a quite different experience when I was living in India. And then it was a quite big different experience when I was living in Mexico. It was quite different experience when I was living in California. Quite different experience than when I was living in Bali. And a completely different experience when I was living in Australia. And when I say living, like living there, like that means like I lived in that place. Like I lived there. It wasn't just something that I went on a vacation with, right? And you want to understand what types of things. And now, by the way, let's say you're trying to reverse engineer this, okay? So one of my clients, he likes Filipinas, okay? His ideal woman, which is something if you work with me or choose to work with me, one of the things we're going to map out is who's your ideal woman? What does she look like? Where's she from? What ethnicity? These types of things. And one of my clients wants to be with a Filipina. Well, where he's living currently, there's not many there. So if that's your ideal woman, sometimes what you can do is this thing called the optimal stop math, okay? So there's this guy that actually paid to go on, and he paid someone to set up 25 dates within the Philippines to find, because his person was the ideal woman was the Philippines, and he set up 25 dates. And he ended up finding his wife by doing that, mapping out which was his ideal woman, and then setting up 25 dates in this thing called the optimal stop math. And it is at 37%. So look this stuff up if you want to do your own research right now. Look up optimal stop math. And what you'll find is there's a sweet spot, right? Now, if you're someone like me that's dopamine driven, you can what's called over optimize. Okay. So if you look at this thing, and we're in this right now, it's called the paradox of choice. Okay. We're in the paradox of choice, and you're either going to be a maximizer or a satisfizer. Okay. And ideally, you don't fall into either of those categories. Ideally, you fall into the sweet spot. But someone like me, because I'm always looking for efficiencies, I'm always looking to optimize. One of the things I do is I'm a maximizer. Okay. So I'm always trying to look for the best situation. I'm always looking for the best situation that I can possibly do in order to get the most out of a situation. Right. And the challenge with that is that the thing is you're not really going to find the optimal of anything. Right. And what will happen is you enter in what's called a law of diminishing returns, where you're always trying to optimize. But then the challenge is you're always optimizing that you're never actually being present. You're never actually achieving. You're never actually landing. This is very important. You're never actually landing. You're always striving. You're always striving, but never arriving. Okay. So this is where the spiritual side of life can come in, right? And help you with this, right? And this is why it's important to have spiritual practices and also to have self-awareness, right? Hey, am I over optimizing right now? Right? For example, the thing is like I can point out all these things that are happening in my life, but at the same time, I'm okay with it, right? It's like, how can I just make little upgrades, but I'm actually okay with it? Like, I think it's actually better that it should be kind of not as great at the beginning, and then you work towards building that up over time, right? This is important, right? So, but then satisficers, they're always satisfied with their reality. That means those are the people that like are satisfied with their body and never maybe doing exercise, right? And they're just always satisfied and they're never actually taking action. So so let's say like a satisficer is like 5 and under, and a maximizer is let's say like 8.5 and above. So that sweet spot is generally between 6 and 8. If you can get to a 6 and 8, so here's how we'll do this, okay? So what you want to do is you want to rank these, okay? So from 0 to 10, you want to rank these. Right now, who are you taking health counsel from, right? Which are the persons you're taking health counsel? So I'll rate myself right now. I would say that I'm actually a 9 in that. I'm a 9 in health counsel. That's what I would say. Living right now, I would say I'm about like a 5.5. So this is actually something I'm completely working on right now. Career, I'm an 8. Partner, well, 9. But 9 in the sense that I feel completely satisfied, okay? And career, 8, that means I'm super stoked on what I'm doing. I'm really stoked on what I'm doing. And this is the area, actually right now, this area of my life is what I'm working on. And that's why I'm looking at a location rotation, right? I'm looking at living that double lifestyle where I can get the order and everything from the first world and all the things that first world bring. But then can I get a little bit of third world vibes in, and I can have that freedom, right? Because, living in a first world, there's a lot of rules. We have a lot of rules here, and that's good because it creates a lot of order. But, sometimes it just gets a little stiff. It gets a little stiff. So having that break where you can go to the tropics and be around third world vibes, a little bit, yeah, man, you can be around that, yeah, man vibes, the tropical vibes, throw one of these up every now and again, enjoy life, But what's cool is I'm still working with no shoes on. So even in a first world, you can find ways to optimize your life. So what I want you to do, an action step that I want you to take right now, I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to rate yourself. By the way, it's really helpful to use ChatGPT. Okay, ChatGPT is a really great way. You could even ask it to scan all your threads and then be like, all right, how am I doing on the 4 biggest decisions of my life? And what I want you to do at a scale of 1 to 10 is I want you to rate yourself. Okay, I want you to rate yourself on these 4 biggest decisions. How are you doing from health? Who are you seeking health counsel from, right? Where are you living, right? What environment are you living in? How happy are you in your environment? Does it support your authentic self? Does it support your highest version of yourself? Do you enjoy where you live? And by the way, some of you have been like, dude, I can't even get there. No worries. All right. A lot of this is just to work on one category at a time. You're not going to get this all at once. By the way, this is why I'm saying this, because they should have taught us this in school. They didn't teach us this in school. So you have to learn it from some guy with AI blue blocking glasses on the internet to help you understand this stuff. Okay. But they didn't teach us this in school. Okay. So that's why you have to learn from people on the internet to understand this stuff, how to get that good life, right? What is that good life? Next, career. Rate yourself. How is your career right now? What career choice have you been making? And maybe is it time for a pivot? Or do you absolutely enjoy it? Or is it just a means to get by? Maybe it's just not even something you're focused on, right? And then most definitely, okay, I don't care what environment you're in. I don't care who you're taking counsel from. I don't care what your career is. Want to be mindful of who your partner is. Okay. This is a big decision. And that's why I chose to go after this and study this at a very deep level, because I wanted to understand to pick the right partner. You want to be a good picker. You want to have a good picker. You want to pick a good person, right? You want to pick the right person, because you pick the wrong person and that person's, the person you're dating, they're going to completely change how you experience reality, whether some of this or some of this. All right. So we want some of this. This is what we're looking for in the choices that we're making in our life. We want to get some more of this going, right? And if you're in a relationship right now and you're not having this, maybe you're having this, right? Well, a lot of times why this is happening in a relationship is it's just miscommunication, right? And this is why I love to let women understand how men operate, and I love to let men understand how women operate, because a lot of us have miscommunication, where there'd be a lot of this in your relationship, but you're just missing the mark, right? And I see this all the time. And I see this all the time when people interact with each other. I'm like, oh yeah, you're just saying this and you're just saying this and you don't understand each other, right? And how can you meet in the middle? And it's funny, I feel like maybe we should develop an AI app or something like this, where it's like, the man can film his woman and maybe not, but like film his woman and be like, hey, what is she saying? And it translates into man language what she's actually meaning, and vice versa. What is the man meaning when he's saying this, and help the woman understand? So that's why you want to understand the partner thing is a very important thing to understand. And you wouldn't believe the amount of problems you could avoid in your life if you just understood man to woman communication or woman to man communication. And by the way, this is what I know. I don't know anything outside of that. That's the only type of communication I understand in terms of an intimate relationship. If you exist outside of that, it's not my expertise. It's not something that I understand. But what I do understand is man to woman communication. And when you can understand that, you can have a lot more synergy, right? And this is really, ideally, when you understand man to woman communication, ideally you look for what's called wins, right? How can I win and how can you win? That is what we are looking for. So we are looking for win-wins. This is what I'm trying to do with you right now. I'm trying to create a win-win where I can practice my speaking, but I also give you value. I want to give you value. This is something that I want to practice on. So I want to practice giving you value. And so I hope this is valuable for you. And then I'm unattached from my value. I'm really giving it out for free in exchange for practicing my mastery, practicing my craft, right? And so ideally in your relationship, you are looking for win-wins. You're always trying to find that center point of where that win-win. And ideally, here's the sweet spot percentage. I don't know if you can see this on here. Here's the sweet spot percentage. You want to go from 60 to 40. Okay? If someone is feeling like they are not at a 60 or 40 in that range, if they're not in that range, it ain't going to work. And so the win-win range is like, sometimes you're going to win and sometimes you're going to lose a little bit. Sometimes you're going to lose a little bit. Sometimes I'm going to win a bit. And ideally, the ideal scene is we both feel like we're both winning. That's the ideal scene. But when you're in a relationship, you're going to constantly try to find win-wins. But the challenge is when someone feels like it's not win-win anymore, that's when the relationship really doesn't end well, right? So this is something you want to consider when you're choosing your partner. Yeah, when you're choosing your partner, I just realized I'm spelling. This is something I got to work on here. Just realized I spelled partner wrong there. But one of the things you want to work on here is finding that sweet spot. Where's that sweet spot? Where's that win-win where both of you can find that synergy together and you're both feeling like you're winning? This is important. So what I want you to do, the action step I want you to take is I want you to audit right now in these 4 decisions. Which one, where are you at? Where are you at out of 10? Which area of your life do you want to focus on? Right now, right? Because one of the things is with life is you got to get clear, right? And sometimes that clarity is not there, okay? It is not there. And sometimes you got to ask yourself questions. Sometimes you got to get knowledge and information to understand, okay, where am I in this reality? And what frameworks can I run my reality through to understand exactly what it is I want? Because ultimately, I truly believe that all of us deserve to live our best life, whatever that looks like for us. And I truly feel that. I truly believe that. It's in my cells. I want that for myself, and I want that for you. I want you to live exactly your ultimate life, whatever that looks like, right? In your full alignment. And that's why I love being here, okay? Is because your alignment is way different to my alignment, all right? And our alignments, your alignment is not better than my alignment, and my alignment is not better than your alignment. Because for some of you, my alignment was surfing this weekend, and you'd be like, oh my God, that is not my alignment. And you might be doing something that I'm like, that is not my alignment. And that's okay. So hopefully what you can be doing is start to find that alignment, right? And once you can live in that synergy, right? There's this synergistic place. And by the way, it's going to come in and come out. It comes in waves, right? There's ebbs and flows of life. But ideally, you live in that synergy. And when you're living in that synergistic place, that aligned place where you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing the exact thing you're meant to be doing with the exact person or people, whoo, that's a money spot to be. That is a money spot to be. And that takes time. And that takes a lot of energy and effort and understanding and thinking, right? This is something that we're not really taught. We're not really taught how to think. We haven't had thought teachers, right? We're being told what to think, but we're not being taught how to think. And this is one of those things that you got to sit with yourself, right? Ideally, you go to nature. Ideally, you journal. Ideally, you spend some time with yourself and you start to think about these things, right? What is it I want out of this life? Who do I want to become? Who do I want to surround myself with, right? What are the types of people I want to surround myself with in order to live the life that I want to be living, right? And this is very, very, very important. So that concludes this live today. The 4 biggest decisions you'll have to make on this planet. And let me know in the comments below. Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? Right? What do you think is? What's a bigger decision that you're going to have to make, right? What are the decisions you're going to have to make, right? So think about this right now, right? And when you get off this live right now, I want you to think about this. Maybe you're out for a walk. Maybe it's daytime where you are. And when you're out for a walk, just think about this, right? Like, okay, where am I living right now? Maybe that's too much. Oh, who am I seeking health counsel from? Or what's my career, right? And just considering these things as a way to understand what it is you want out of this life. All right, so I'm going to end this live on YouTube. So comment below on YouTube, what is the best life you want to be living? What are the 4 biggest decisions you will have to make? And we're going to end on YouTube here. And then I'm going to come around and